The double game week 33 is pretty much all said and done now. I've scored 66 points and I'm up to 37k overall. We've still got the Arsenal Crystal Palace game to go, but because I'm on my free hit for game week 34, I think we can go ahead and talk about my team selection. Alright, so a quick counter through how my team has gotten on then. We had a game last night between Aston Villa and Man City, but, well, for my FPL team, it did very little, to be completely honest with you. I don't think I scored any points from anyone in my team, by the looks of it, in that game. Rodgers with a booking, Konsa conceding, of course, Guardiola, Ruben Diaz both conceding as well. Don't think they got any bonus points in that game either. So yeah, pretty disappointing all round on that front. But because I had, well, Marmoush as well, my captain, blanking again. Although I'm pretty sure he scored, but it was offside. So yeah, how many players do we have in that game? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they all blanked. It is what it is. You know, it's still worth some points to me, I guess. Looking at the goalkeepers, we've already gone through this on my transfer plans video. Raya and Saliba obviously keeping the clean sheet against Ipswich. Areola, last minute clean sheet wipeout against Southampton. Remember what the fixtures were. Munoz and Sarr. Munoz keeping a clean sheet against Bournemouth. It was they played, I think, in that first fixture. And then Ismaila Sarr with a yellow card. Mateta with a blank. Ismaila Sarr obviously kept the clean sheet, but then got the yellow card to go down to 2 points. They're obviously playing Arsenal. Exactly what I want from that game, I'm not all that sure, to be honest. I've got double Arsenal defence and Saka, and then those 3 Palace players. So we'll just let the game play out and see what happens, I think. Saka, a little bit concerned about his minutes in that one. But to be honest, because I don't have him as my captain, it's kind of a bit of a, I don't know, an interesting one. Because I want him to do well because he's in my FPL team. I don't want him to do too well because I don't have him as my captain. It's a bit of a weird one. The challenge he received from Leif Davis against Ipswich, by the way, I thought was outrageous and definitely deserving of a red card. And he got subbed off early in that game, I think in the 59th minute. And I would just raise the question, is it worth even considering starting him against Crystal Palace? You know, it was a nasty injury. He iced his Achilles like on the bench after the game, or after his time on the pitch. Yeah, it just didn't look too promising for him. And I think if I was Arteta, focusing on the Champions League, as it seems that he is with the rotation we've seen from him in the Premier League, I would be surprised to see Saka start against Crystal Palace. If I was Arteta, I don't think I would risk him. Anything else to talk about in this team? I don't really think so. We'll see what happens in the Arsenal-Palace game. But yeah, as it stands at the moment, and to be honest, I don't think my rank is going to change all that much. I think quite a lot of players around me have 6 players from both teams. There's not going to be a whole lot of difference between who we own. I think most are going to be on kind of the 6 that I'm on. So yeah, my points could change, but I don't think it's going to affect my rank that much. That's why I thought it'd be nice to go early on my team selection. So as I mentioned then, I'm on my free hit for Game Week 34, and I'm going to start off by talking through the defenders that I've picked, and I'm going to use the Draft Hound clean sheet odds in order to do that. And, well, their clean sheet odds are laid out pretty simply. There are 4 teams, I think, that stand above the rest. Brighton have 40 against West Ham, but I'm not sure I can fully back that myself. So you've got 4 teams kind of leading the way. Fulham, Newcastle, Wolves, all playing promoted teams. Fulham got Southampton away, Newcastle got Ipswich at home, Wolves got Leicester at home, and then Chelsea have got Everton at home. So I think those are the 4 kind of strongest defences. And I think from these teams, it makes sense to pick defenders, right? So this is how I'm shaping up. It's quite similar, of course. I made a transfer plans video where I went through a free hit draft. It's obviously going to be quite similar to that because, well, it's a free hit. I'm not going to change it all that much, like, fundamentally from that video. So apologies if it is a little bit similar, but you know, it's just an honest reflection of where I'm thinking of going with my team. Yeah, I've gone for Leno in goal, doubled up with Sessegnon in defence. Now, if we even get, like, a whisper that Sessegnon doesn't look like he's going to start against Southampton, then I'll be tempted to move Robinson in his place. But I think Sessegnon, not many people not on their free hit will have him, I don't think. He's playing on the wing at the moment for Fulham, getting attacking returns, and he's classed as a defender in FPL, and he's 4.1 million as well, by the way. So I think he's a great option in the game right now, and I think if you're on your free hit, I think you're missing out if you don't go for him. Again, I think we need a bit more news in the press conferences for me to absolutely, like, nail that decision down. But I think we've seen enough from Fulham defensively this season to say that I think they have a reasonable chance for clean sheet against Southampton, which is why I think the double up of Sessegnon and Leno is a smart thing to do. Other than that, we've got Livramento and Ait Nouri, both again playing promoted teams at home. I guess for me, with the like financial position that I'm in FPL, I do have the opportunity to change Livramento to like Fabian Schär or Trippier. At the moment, I just prefer Livramento. I know Fabian Schär has had attacking returns in recent games, and arguably Trippier is like the better player. I just like Livramento. I think I'm going to go for him as it stands at the moment. And then other than that, we've got Ait Nouri, who I think is certainly the standout Wolves defender. I don't think he's been quite as attacking as he was under Gary O'Neill when he was the manager of Wolves, but I still think he's the best Wolves defender. I'm not worried about price. I'm on my free hit. Got plenty of budget available. He's 4.9 million. I'd say that's quite expensive for what he's been offering in the well, potentially quite expensive for what he's been offering. But I think the fact he's playing a promoted team sells it for me. And then on my bench, well, I've just gone for Areola. I could have any other goalkeeper there, I suppose. Could maybe go. I'm already tripled up on Newcastle, just a little spoiler, so I can't go for Pope, but I could maybe go for Jose Sarr or Sam Johnson, but it's a little bit, I'm a little bit unsure as to who's going to start in goal for Wolves, basically, so that's why I've gone for Leno and Areola. Kirkez, he plays Man United, who are obviously resting players in the Premier League to target the Europa League, so I think that makes them a team to target now. It's just a question of, is it worth starting him over the 4 defenders that I've got? Right now, I've decided that's probably not the case. I'm not going to do that. I've gone for Kluivert as well, who, again, plays that, well, I wouldn't say, like, depleted United, because they're not depleted, they're just prioritising the European competition. But, you know, you consider them a team to target. Kluivert is going to play every game, you think, when he's fit, takes penalties. He's the standout Bournemouth attacking asset, in my opinion. I've gone for him. We'll see later on, when I go through my midfield, there's a question, I guess, of whether he could start for me, to be fair. And I've gone for Robinson, just because he's nice, easy rotation if I need it with Sessegnon. So, yeah. That's the defence and the bench. So moving on to the midfield 4 that I've picked. And I would say my midfield 4 is probably the area of my team that's the least locked in at the moment. I've got Harvey Barnes, Cole Palmer, Salah and Bowen. And I think all 4 of these players have, in terms of picking them on a free hit, all 4 of them have their respective downsides. Harvey Barnes being minutes. I think he's done well enough for Newcastle in recent games to justify another start and some good minutes against Ipswich. However, obviously Jacob Murphy's been in really good form too, and Anthony Gordon is back for Newcastle. So how long is Harvey Barnes realistically going to be starting in the place of Anthony Gordon? I think he's probably got 1 or 2 games left, and then there's a real opportunity, I think, for Anthony Gordon to come back into the 11. Cole Palmer, his form has dropped off a cliff. I don't think he's had a goal in the Premier League for over 90 days now. But I can't help myself but pick him. I think the Everton fixture is really good. He's Cole Palmer, you know, you can't. He's been so good in the past that 90 days of not scoring still doesn't put me off picking him. And Salah, he's not gone 90 days without scoring, but he has gone a little while without scoring. I'm still going to go for him, I think, against Tottenham. I think Salah's a pretty much a shoe-in. It's just a case of whether you go for Palmer. And then I've gone for Bowen as well. I like the fixture against Brighton, and I really like Jared Bowen. For me, it's a real, I'd say 60-40 at the moment that I'm preferring Jared Bowen over Kluivert. But the more I think about it, and the more I think about the fact that obviously Man United are prioritising the Europa League and resting players in the Prem, should I just go for Kluivert instead? He's on my bench, of course, so it's an easy decision, but it's just I'm a little bit in between at the moment going for Bowen or Kluivert. Let me know in the comments, actually, who you would prefer out of the 2. All right, and then we've got the forwards, and I think, to be honest, 2 of these 3 sort of pick themselves, really, in Isak and Cunha. Both 2 of the best forwards in the game this season. Cunha, there is a bit of mumbling that there's a risk, or yeah, mumbling's the word I'm going to use, a bit of a risk that he potentially gets displaced by Bellegarde if he's back fitting in the Wolves squad. I don't know. I just don't see how, even if he's like rumoured to go to Man United, etc., I just don't see how you can leave Cunha out, to be honest. Isak, yeah, his form similar to, well, Salah has dropped off a little bit in recent games, but he's still, in my mind, the best forward in the game, like right now. So yeah, I think you've got to pick the 2 of them, in my opinion. And then it's kind of that third forward spot. I've gone for Chris Wood. I'll talk about some alternatives that you could pick other than Chris Wood, but Chris Wood has been so good for me in my team this season. I've not had him for a little bit of time after he came back from that international break and with his injury. But he obviously scored the goal against Tottenham. Brentford, I think, are a good team from an attacking perspective. Don't get me wrong, I really like Wissa and Mbeumo, and spoiler alert, those are 2 of the alternatives that you could consider, or I'm certainly considering for this draft. But I don't think they're very good defensively, and Forest have really got something to play for at the moment, and I just feel like Chris Wood could do really well. So yeah, starting 11 and bench, this is where I'm at so far with my free hit. Quick look at, well, the final team in scores on the doors according to Fantasy Football Hub. So we're on 67 expected points, a 97% game week AI rating, and I'm going for Salah as my captain. I don't really think you can captain anyone else this week, really. I think Tottenham, well, they're having a pretty atrocious season, aren't they, in the Premier League? Yeah, if there was ever a game for Salah to like regain his form, I think they've pretty much got a chance to win the Premier League against Tottenham as well, I think. So yeah, and well, I don't think it'd be in the back of Tottenham players' minds to throw the game, but it'll certainly be in the back of Tottenham fans' minds to stop Arsenal winning a Premier League title, I suppose. But yeah, I don't think that'll factor into it, to be fair. It's just a joke. I think he's the best captain, basically. So yeah, that's where we are. And finally, just a few alternatives that I have been thinking about. So I mentioned the Wolves goalkeeper, a little bit up and down as to who's going to play. I think Jose Sarr got injured in the warm-up in the last game, so Sam Johnson played. Just a question of who's actually going to start. So I think that's the fact that you don't know who's going to start is enough risk for me not to go there. Nick Pope could go for him, but I'm already tripled up on Newcastle, so it'd mean picking someone else. Like I said, you could have Cher or Trippier as alternatives to just try to remember who I picked. Livramento. I've gone for Livramento, but you could obviously have them as alternatives. Cucurella, I think his minutes are looking pretty solid for Chelsea going into the end of the season. They got a good fixture against Everton. He's obviously a really attacking fullback. Just don't massively back Chelsea defensively. I guess they do have something to play for. Maybe he could be picked alongside like Kirkez as well. I know, I'm sort of thinking about Cucurella. You go for any of the Bournemouth defenders, I think, as well. You know, if you can't quite get to Kirkez, I think Howson, Zabani, both really good options as well. In terms of the midfielders, I really like Mbeumo. I just a little bit put off by the fact he's playing Nottingham Forest away and how good the Forest defence have been this season. So that's put me off him slightly. I think long-term he's a great pick. Like if I was on my wild card, I think I'd go for him. But if I'm free hitting, you've just got to think about this one game week so you can really target those quality fixtures. I just don't think Mbeumo has a quality fixture this week. Jacob Murphy is obviously a really good option. Iwobi playing Southampton in reasonably good form for Fulham of recent. Munetsi, cheap Wolves midfielder. Been doing all right since he signed, or since he joined them. I just don't think he's quite of the level of someone I'd want to pick on my free hit, given I've pretty much got... I've not got unlimited funds, but I can pretty much afford anyone. I just rather not go for him. Jota and Diaz are options. I've seen quite a few people going for Luis Diaz in their midfield, which I respect. I don't know, I'm just uneasy about the rest of the Liverpool assets outside of Salah for minutes. All of those three Forest midfielders I think are pickable. I just think my midfield is better. Alanga, Gibbs, White, Callum Hudson-Odoi. Take your pick of those three, really. Semenyo I think is good as well. I just prefer Kluivert. In terms of the forward, you could go for Strand Larsen. You could go for Wissa. I think both of those are good options. I just, again, prefer the three that I've gone for. Gakpo, again, similar to Jota and Diaz. Just not 100% sure about his minutes. I think Evan Nilsson is a perfectly respectable pick. He's probably right up there, to be fair, with Strand Larsen as alternatives, I think, to Chris Wood. Nicholas Jackson, I think, could be good. Just doubt his form recently. Füllkrug, I really like what I've seen from Füllkrug at West Ham so far, and I really like him as a player. He's a really nice differential, I think, if you can squeeze him in this week, but I don't feel the need to go for a massive punt. And then, to be fair, I could also go for Raul Jimenez and target Southampton. That's another option. So I think if I've got three potential strikers that could take Chris Wood's place, is Strand Larsen, Evan Nilsson, and Raul Jimenez. But yeah, right now, front three being Isak, Cunha, Chris Wood. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave me a like rating. I know my team selection is quite similar to the video I made on my transfer plans, or the team I had on my transfer plans video, but I mean, it's my thoughts around my FPL team, so they're not really going to deviate all that much. This is just me becoming a little bit more locked in, I guess, in terms of my decision making. And of course, you know, if you think there are any other players I should pick that I've completely ignored, please let me know in the comments. One player in particular, I'm sure I'll get comments about this because people won't have reached this far in the video. It's Danny Welbeck. I do quite like him as an option, don't get me wrong. I should probably have considered him on the forwards, to be fair, but Danny Welbeck's in my thoughts as well. So yeah, I think that's everything. If you enjoyed the video, like I said, leave me a like rating. And if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the Goal to Goal channel. There should be a circle you can press there to subscribe on the screen if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in my next video.